What if a small tweak could help you start hitting more doubles and home runs? Imagine adding 2 to 3 miles per hour to your exit velocity almost instantly. Yes, today. And if you're wondering who I am, I'm former MLB player Jermaine Curtis, and I was almost cut for not hitting for power, but I changed everything using the exact system I'm about to share with you today. And they helped me crush the ball for extra base hits. And here's the best part. These are the same moves by stars like Freddie Freeman and Shohei Ohtani to crush baseballs. And now I'm teaching them players just like you across the country in my 100x Power program. And the player on the screen is one of my online students who's already seeing results. So now let's dive into the content. So this player is in my online program. It's called the 100x Power program. His name is Trey, and he reached out to me because he has several tools that allows him to, play at a high level. But the one that is down is his power. So he wanted to start hitting the ball harder and farther so that he can go to these showcases and start standing out. Now, when I first sat down with him, we did actually a Zoom call and we looked over his metrics. We looked at his swing. When I first, sat down with him, his exit velocity was 72 miles per hour. So at his age group, this was below average. And so this was the reason why he wasn't really hitting any doubles and he wasn't driving, the baseball for, extra base hits, is because his exit velocity numbers were actually down. So we want to improve that. Now, the first week, we ended up getting to about 74 miles per hour. Okay, that's 14 feet further. And then now we're at 77 miles per hour. So that right there is 35 feet further. Now, what I'm going to be talking about today is actually what we did to bump his exit velocity 3 miles per hour. And I'm actually going to ask you and see what you think. Do you see the difference that we make? And then I'm also going to share with you, the actual steps so that you can take your game to that next level. So with that being said, let's jump into it right now. So what you'll see here is that he has some explosive movements, right? He likes to have his lower half wide, as you can see right here. And you'll see that he shifts all his weight to that back leg. Okay, kind of have like a mid leg kick. It's not too high, it's not too outrageous. It's something that's repeatable, but you see how all this weight shifts into this back leg. He sits into this back leg, back hip. He keeps his chest over his back leg. So he's doing a lot of things that most coaches teach. And then you see here, as he swings, you see how, this is how he moves. And this was 74 miles per hour. This was his average. I think his highest was like 75 miles per hour at this time, which was last week. And then this week, you can see here, here's a difference. You can see here, we started to implement it. It was a bit, uncomfortable for him, but you can see here, he's at 77 miles per hour. Right, he's averaging 77 and he's hitting up to 78, 79 miles per hour for his max. Now, what's the difference here? Now, before we even go into the difference, I want to say I always measure off of a tee because that measures raw power, right? The ball isn't moving, so you have to create the energy to elevate those numbers, and you basically teach your body that you can swing harder and you can control it. So I always work off a tee because once you go into the game, those numbers are going to boost up even more. Now, let's go back to what we were talking about. What is the difference here? Well, if you haven't caught on yet, it's how he's using his lower half. Okay, let me show you quickly here. We're going to go through it real quick. And then you can see here, look over here, and that's 77. And you can even hear him. And he was pumped because he averaged 77. Okay. So the system that I use is called the Coils lower half framework. And I have a video that goes a little bit more into depth than what I'm going to share with you today, and I'll put it below so that you can watch it. But the Koyo's lower half framework is what I taught him, and you can see these numbers start to boost. And if you do it yourself, you'll see some boost in your exit velocity as well. So let's talk about it now. So the first step here is the C, and that means coil. And you can see how he starts to coil in. You can see how, look at his hips, they're even right here. And then you'll see that he starts to coil in. He's showing his back pocket towards the pitcher. One of my mentors, Hall of Famer Dusty Baker, said when the pitcher shows his back pocket, you want to show your back hip pocket. And you can see he's showing his back pocket toward the pitcher. If we were on this side, we'd be able to see his back pocket, and you can basically know he's doing that because this front knee right here is pointing inward towards the other front knee, and you can also see his heel pointing towards the pitcher. Okay, so that's the first step. And if we go back on this side and see, he actually doesn't do this at all. He just sits back onto that back leg, right? So see here, the leg just goes up, and then you can see here he's turning it inward, right? And you can see this position is a little bit more powerful. He is into his back hip right here. He is over his back leg, and he is just creating power. Now, you would think since his back leg, you know, he's sitting into his back leg and he's doing this leg kick, that this will be more powerful, but this creates more torque. Okay, so the first step right here is the C, and that is the coil. Now, what's the next step? It's an orchestrated step. Now, I call an orchestrated step a controlled movement, right? And you'll see in both of these, he actually does it really well. Now, as he, you know, basically strides out to the baseball, you can see that it's controlled. You see his chest staying over his back leg, okay? And you can see it over here on this side as well. As he starts to stride out, you can also see that chest staying over that back leg. So he's doing a good job with the O. So that's the second step, is the orchestrating the step. The next is the initiate landing. What we want here is we want 60% on our backside, and we want 40% here on our front leg. Okay, and we're not able to see it on this side, but he's definitely doing it. He's going to keep more weight onto his back leg as opposed to his front leg, and you can see that here, and the same thing goes here. Now, the next thing is we want to launch the hips. Now, this is where another part of his game that is getting better, right? The first thing was the coil, and the second thing is this, and I'll explain right now. Now, when you look over here, when you look at on this side, you can see how his hands are pushing first, and then his lower half connects, and then he goes to the baseball. So he's really losing a little bit of power just because of that. Now you'll see here, since he had to coil, okay, and he's starting to unravel, you'll see the backside starting to turn first. And you can see how this right here is turning, okay, all this right here is turning, and then, you know, the hands are going to start working to the baseball. It's almost like the lower half is going to create a window for the hands to work towards the baseball, and that becomes like a whip-like effect and allows him to increase those numbers. So that is the big difference here in his whole game. Now, actually mark it in a different color. It's this one, and it's actually this one. Okay, so going back here just to show you again, see how here, look how the hands move first, then the lower half catch up. And so here you'll see his lower half start to fire first, creating a window so his hands to get to the baseball. And then the last one is the S, which is to stabilize the hips and create a firm front side. So what does that mean? Basically, to keep it very simple, What it means is that front foot heel needs to become an anchor so that it stops your body from continuing to go forward. Okay. And you can see it here as his front foot gets down. You'll see how his heel plants into the ground. I'm always looking at this right here. His heel plants into the ground. Okay. And it stops his body from moving forward. Okay. And you'll see a big difference also, too, with this swing. Watch, I'll show you in a second. But you'll see here that he's getting here and then he's hitting through the baseball. And if you do it right, okay, as he gets here, you'll see like a little thrust. See that little thrust into the baseball? And that's that heel locking out, and it's allowing him to thrust into the baseball. So he's taking all the energy that he's going, forward towards the pitcher and unraveling, and now he's thrusting into the ball. You can see a difference here. There isn't any. He just gets to the baseball, and that's it. There's no thrust through the baseball. You can see here, from this backside, look how it moves. There's like a push through. And that's what makes him get that little added power and using the lower half correctly, right? So that right there is the coils system. And if you use this coil system, and let me mark this a different color, because that is what we changed, these yellow parts. If you use this coil system, it's going to allow you to drive the baseball harder, farther, and you're going to add 2 to 3 miles per hour in your exit velocity almost instantly if you do it. Now, if you're ready to take your game to that next level, go down and book a call with me. And I want to look at your swing and tell you exactly what you need to do so you can take your game to that next level. I'm not going to do this forever, but if you're interested in that, go below, book your call. Now, if you're a player that want to know more about this coils lower half system, all you have to do is go here and click on this video. This video right here will go more into depth into exactly what you need to do. I walk you step by step through it. It's going to add more power to the game, your game, so that you can start driving the baseball and hitting those doubles and home runs and standing out so that you can get that college scholarship. You can play on those elite travel ball teams. You can make your high school varsity team, or you can even go pro. Thank you guys, and I'll talk to you soon.